Aloha! This CME activity is jointly provided by the Queens Medical Center and UH-JABSOM Department of Geriatric Medicine. As a reminder, evaluations are required for certificates of attendance. After you complete an evaluation, a certificate will automatically be sent to you. You can find evaluations by following the link in the chat at the end of the session or at any time on our website and email advertisement. For those who are asking for CMEs, the Queens Medical Center will be sending out CME transcripts in January of every year. We are on month 3 of a 4-month series on what matters. In our evaluations today, we will be asking you if your clients have an advance directive, healthcare power of attorney, and POLST. About ECHO, we want to remind everyone that this is an ECHO webinar, which means that this session serves as a forum for mutual teaching and learning from experts and from each of us on the front lines. As the ECHO motto goes, all teach, all learn. So it will take all of you to create this community of learning. A little bit about our format. After a short lecture from our experts, we will share expertise from the rest of the team and then open up the time for case discussions. We invite you to share any geriatric cases. It may even be on a topic not related to the topic of today's lecture. We only ask that you keep it HIPAA compliant case for discussion. That means please do not share the patient's name, birthday, address, and so on. We learn best from our patients. They are the best teachers. Our interdisciplinary team is here as well, and we are all willing to teach and share our collective wisdom with you. Most of you already know me. I am Wynette Gaylord, president of a care home organization, ARCA. We have Mary Boltan, president of Foster Family Homes Association, Juliana Caldwell filling in for Danielle DeLonghi from Aloha Care, Leila Ventar from United Healthcare, and our geriatrician, Dr. Rita Bell Fernandez from University of Hawaii. I would like to extend a very special welcome to our nurse panelist, Elsa Talavera. Elsa is president and CEO of All Island Case Management Corporation, and we are so honored to have her join the team. We recently finished a 4-month series on the mind. If you're interested in viewing any of those lectures, you can find them on our website. We cannot offer certificates of attendance for videos you have viewed, unfortunately. You must participate in our education live. In month 3 of our 4-month series on what matters, we will be talking about enhancing respect and dignity. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker. Dr. Joseph Epping is currently a volunteer coordinator and facilitates grief support groups at Bristol Hospice, Hawaii. He will soon be changing from the volunteer department to the bereavement department and work as a grief counselor. Dr. Epping is certified death doula and grief coach, which he does outside of his work duties. Additionally, Dr. Epping serves as an organist, choir master at St. Peter's Episcopal Church in Honolulu and is the chair of the Racial Reconciliation Task Force Curriculum Committee, which is writing a curriculum for the diocese. His latest book, Healing Our Grief, an interactive journey with music, meditation, and hymns, was published, and that was the encouragement needed to begin his own LLC, Healing Music. His career has taken him from public school teaching to university professor in education, and now full-time working with his passion, end of life. Mahalo for joining us. Take it away. Dr. Epping?
Sorry, everyone. It looks like he dropped off. He might be having a tech issue.
Okay, while we are waiting for Dr. Epping, today's topic is on spirituality and what matters. And we're so honored to have Chaplain Clarence Liu here in the audience who is joining us on this echo. And while we're waiting for Joseph, I want to ask Clarence, could you clarify what does a chaplain exactly do? What is the role of a chaplain? That's very confusing to me, and I would love to understand that a little better.
You're putting me on the spot, Rita. I think as long as we have, if we go back in time and study different people, tribes from the very, very beginning, there has always been some kind of holiness or some sense of, today we call God, but something that is beyond our daily lives. And for lack of a better word, we've called that the holy. And like I said, every tribe and every people that, I've studied or learned about has this group of people who were dedicated to living with the holy. And that's a very, very large thing that I just said, but we really, we'd have to have a little more time to talk about what that means. But I'm very honored that at least that's basically what it is. It's an experience of holiness, an experience that is beyond and that nothing can control. And the clergy or the people that you asked about are people who serve and live their lives totally dedicated to that. And that's basically, I think, our speaker is here right now. But if you want to know a little more, maybe a little at another time, I'd be very happy to talk.
We would love to have you back, Chaplain Clarence. You have worked with so many hospices and such a long career in the community. Thank you for sharing that very profound statement about the holy. Welcome back, Joseph. And I'm wondering whether you can share screen and begin your presentation.
I'm having, as soon as that Staying Alive music came on, it froze my everything. So I'm not sure the video is going to work, but you can hear me okay, yeah?
Sure.
Okay, now I'm going to attempt to share my, let's see if this will go through. Did it work? Did I freeze? I'm still there? Oh, thank goodness. Okay, so I can go? I'm all set?
You're all set. We can see the screen. You can
very good. All right, very good. It's an honor to be here with you all today. Thank you. And Clarence, just good to see you again. Way back from my hospice Hawaii days. We met briefly and during that time. So what I want to do today is talk about respect and dignity in terms of 3 areas: knowledge, environment, and communication. And we're going to put this together to equal cups of cold water. Now, some of you may or may not understand or I've heard that phrase before, but giving cups of cold water to those in need, helping those that need us most. All right, let's first go to respect and dignity. What do you think? Are they the same? Are they different? Any thoughts? Quick thoughts from anybody? No thoughts. Okay. Okay, that's okay. Because Dr. Fernandez said you've got till 2:30 and you have to be done. So I'm going to just fast forward then. Well, let's see if respect and dignity are the same indeed. Respect, dignity, huh? Okay, respect. So if we look at formal definitions of this, respect, it's a deep admiration for someone or something brought on by their abilities, their qualities, or achievements. Now, let me just continue to pick on Dr. Fernandez a second. Now, I can totally admire her for her achievements, right? She has done great things. And I gotta say, it's really good thing that I met her as a choir member before the hospice world, because I probably would have been just dang intimidated by her. So, and then we can respect people for feelings of their wishes, their rights, their traditions. We may not agree with them, we may not like it, but we respect that. Well, then we're going to add to this component of dignity, where we believe that all humans have equal worth and value. Everyone we work with in the healthcare setting, regardless of what we do, they are worth it. And with that comes a sense of pride in yourself, self-respect. So we should indeed keep calm in the face of difference and live our lives in a state of inclusion and wonder at the diversity of humanity. And right now, I think in 2023, in this month, difference is hitting us smack in the face. And some of us are running helter-skelter with this. And I realize you can't see me talking with my hands. But we don't know always what to do with this difference. And then maybe we have someone come in our care home or a foster home or a hospice. And what is that? What is that diversity about? Well, I'm going to push it a little bit further. Respect plus dignity really is the formula for inclusion. Now, this term has been thrown around all sorts of ways, especially in our school system, and sometimes not always used appropriately. But let's talk about this a little bit. But to do this, I want to take you back to the year 1991. Now, so many of you were not even on this earth at this point, and I was just a very, very young school teacher here. I just started my second year of teaching elementary in Indiana. This was also the era of patients with AIDS. People were dying. People were making them go away. People were horrible. Not unlike what happened to us at the beginning of COVID. Remember walking down the grocery store and somebody would like walk on the next aisle to avoid you? This we didn't know. So that year I heard this little advertisement on my radio driving in for school, dreading it. And it was about volunteering at hospice. And I said, well, I'm not a healthcare person. And, organic chemistry decided that for me, that I was not going to be a pharmacist. But I said, I can do paperwork, whatever. So I went. I had a marvelous volunteer coordinator. I got through the program. And I said, at the end, I only want to work with persons with AIDS. And she looked at me. And now this, mind you, was in Goshen, Indiana, a hospice formed by the Mennonites, where they vowed to take care of all. And she said, Joseph, do you realize what you're asking? I said, yeah, I do. I understand the consequences. But now let's take a twist there. Remember, my training was a musician. And if any of you know anything about musicians, we may not be always the nicest people. We can be very filled with pride, right? And we can be very critical because that's how we get through our schools of music. But volunteering to hold the hand of somebody with a skeleton that was dying changed my life because it taught me how to live in the face of dying. So I say all that because if you can find it in your heart to care for somebody else, you will succeed. And that's why all of you are here. You have said, I'm going to care for somebody, and I'm going to really care for them. You have a super important role. Why would you settle for anything less? You may not be a medical director. You may not be a teacher, but you are caring for people at the place where they need you the most. Well, let's go on now. What do we need to do with that important responsibility? So we have our equation here, right? Respect plus dignity or inclusion, knowledge. How can we gain some knowledge about the diversity, respect for those that we work with? Well, let's do some simple things. You're going to Google it. Just find out. That's a major step. Many of us don't take that opportunity to find out who we're working with. We're going to ask questions. We're going to email and text folks that may be able to give us an answer. And you may even dip your toe in the water. So for instance, I'm very German, right? And I love to cook from my German heritage, but you may not have ever experienced German cuisine. Dipping your toe in the water will say, hey, I want to try that. You're coming to a new knowledge here to help you with diversity and respect. Well, okay, let's look at some more here. With this, let's talk about just general knowledge. Do you know about veterans? I run the veterans program at Bristol Hospice as well. Do you know that you can only use the word soldiers to a few people? Did you know that you can say some things to one branch and not the other? There's a really, really good, what do you call it? Like a webinar that's very short, but very entertaining. 15 things that veterans want everybody to know in healthcare. Very good. And they even give you a certificate after you do it, and it's free, but they want this information out. And generally, you're going to investigate cultures, maybe faiths and beliefs. Maybe you know nothing about the particular faith belief that they belong to. Well, now's the time to bring you closer to that patient. And food, we are Hawaii after all, right? We've got to know about this food. So if you're looking at specific things, what are you going to specifically do with your patients? Find out about your patient's life. Find out about their likes and dislikes. That takes some time, that takes some energy, but do it. Find out about their family, which you'll probably get to know in the long run. What music do they want to hear? That is, I can't stress that enough how important music is. What about TV? Is there something they like or dislike? Instead of just putting them there in front of the TV and just doing nothing more, whether they like it or not. And pictures. What pictures could frame their room? Anybody have a quick story of how you succeeded with knowledge? Okay, this is a talkative group. I'm just going to move right on then, because in the end, with all of this, it is your responsibility. It is my responsibility when I work with patients. It is your responsibility whom you work with. All right, let's go on to the next one, environment. Now, environment, I'm literally talking about the physical environment for which our folks live, our clients, our patients, where we live. And sometimes we don't have a full understanding of this. So we look and see things. We listen. What are they saying? We ask questions and we play detective. We bring somebody else in and say, hey, what do you see here? I remember a care home I went in, because prior in my days of hospice Hawaii, I was with patients a lot doing therapeutic music. And I remember one care home I went in and I was going to honor a veteran with a pinning ceremony. But to get him outside, the entire floor was covered with children's toys. That's a huge fall risk, not to mention, here we have all these people. So I guided the veteran out and we did it. But things like that, we need to play detective in our own home, our own place, our own establishment. So generally, how is the house? Is it patient-friendly where your patients are? Is there an ambiance? I remember another one I went to, he was transitioning, and the care home person wanted him out like that. She did not want anybody to die in their home. And I went in to work with them a little bit on grief, and it was dark, like very dark brown walls. Artwork was very, very dark, black and brown, very little. It would make anybody depressed. So what is the ambiance like? How can you enhance that? And comfortable living. So specifically, clothing. My mother-in-law went through this period when she was in a place where we never knew from one moment to the next if she would have the same clothes. How about scents? Maybe you have like a Febreze going that really affects the patient. Or sounds, are there sounds too loud or too soft? Is there screaming? Is there yelling? Is there too much whispering? Temperature and accessibility. Because in the end, it is your responsibility. Whatever position we are in, it is our responsibility. All right. Let's talk a little bit about communication. This is the biggie, right? So for communication, whomever we are, we want to listen. Open-ended questions. The time before replying. And for goodness sake, stop all that judging already. Okay? Let's talk a little bit about that. Listening. You're taking time to listen. You're listening to somebody give a full answer. Do you want that peanut butter and jelly? Do you want just jelly? Person can't get that out fast enough. Listen, for goodness sake. Don't say, okay, I'll give you the jelly because you're in a hurry. That's going to bring dignity to this person and respect. Or I often say, we're coming to this. We're going to get here. Listening. There's my exclamation points, but let's continue with this in general. Open-ended questions. This is perfect for people. We want those that we work with to tell stories. We want them to have those memories. So what was it like for you in 1971? What was it like on that trip? Can you tell me more about it? What did that feel like? Those kind of questions that are not yes and no. But again, it takes a little more effort to do this because you want to listen. Now, this time before replying, we all know it. We all have it, right? Those people in our life where we're telling something and they're already thinking ahead of what they're going to tell you, and then you're not done and they'll just blurt it out. Take time before replying so they know they were heard and judging, right? So specifically, let the patient answer. And this one I say a lot. If maybe that patient is telling you this story for the 85th time, listen to it for the 86th time. In some ways, that can also be a great assessment tool. Are they suddenly changing the story and mixing things up? Maybe that's part of the dementia coming in, or some other thing that they're dealing with. That can be a real true tell sign for this. And finally, allow yourself to learn from the patient. There you go. And you didn't walk in their shoes, so stop judging. There's a reason why maybe that son doesn't come to visit, or there's some anger going on. It's okay. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to do anything but just listen. Because I come back to this, it's our responsibility. Our responsibility as doctors, as nurses, as care facilitators, as CNAs, it is our responsibility. All right. So, diversity. Diversity is a fact. It is there. We know all about it. It's hitting us in the face right now. We have to deal with this. Equity, though, is
it's faster traffic. We're going to get stuck.
So equity is, how you treat people. Inclusion is an action. And from all that, belonging is the outcome. So let's look at that a little bit. When we, as caregivers, provide inclusion created by dignity and respect, belonging will be our result. So what's the big deal about belonging? Well, let's check this out. Belonging, that's the ability for those you care, those that are in your care, they can then thrive from quality of life because you care. You have listened, you have learned from them, you have made your life quality and enhanced from that person. Again, it's our responsibility. So go ahead and give those cups of cold water, and do what you can for folks. Now I'm going to stop this. That's the end of that. And I'm going to try to turn on my camera. And if I freeze, well, I apologize. Let's see here. All right. Are there questions my way? No, it's not going to happen.
I don't see any questions in the chat, but anyone can feel free to ask any questions. And that was a beautiful presentation, Doctor. Thank you so much. I
Oh.
loved it so much.
Thank you.
We did have some responses to your earlier audience questions. They would gain knowledge by reading.
Oh, good.
And people did put in the chat that dignity and respect, there is a difference. They're not the same.
Yeah, right. It's funny, I didn't include reading because in this day and age, our number one learner, as we know in the education, is that which is tactile. They move things. The second one now are those that are visual, and then we have the oral learner, they'll learn best by listening. And so reading, if you're not, as I work with folks all over, if it's not on Google, if it's not on their phone or iPad, what's a book? What's a library? So kudos to you, whoever said you're going to read. I love it. Go for it.
Does anyone want to share a case or a situation they had with a client where this came up? Dignity, respect, whether there was a challenge, whether you overcome a barrier, whether it was a family member. I know there is a wealth of knowledge in our Zoom session today. Would anybody like to share?
I would like to share, Dr. Ritabel. This is Elsa.
Thank you, Elsa.
Yeah, we had a client a while back, and listening to the doctor when he's talking about belonging, judging. You know, when we do have a client and they become hard head, you know, people will kind of label them, oh, that patient is hard head. They don't listen, they don't pay attention. And of course, when they hear that, the caregiver, when that client is giving them a hard time, they already label them, oh, leave him alone. He is hard head. He doesn't listen. He doesn't listen to the son. He doesn't listen to the family. He doesn't listen to anybody. But I always said, like I said, is stop the judging. Because until you accept the client the way they are, it's going to be hard for you to understand where the patient is coming from. So you accept them as they are, even though they are hard head, forget the hard head. You just accept that they had a hard, whatever happening in their life, whatever, maybe they had a past hardship with their health, hardship with their family. You have to accept that that's happened, and we move on and treat them with respect and dignity and forget about judging. And we just say, okay, so this is where you are now. I'm here to help you. So I hope you will understand also that I'm here to help you, that I'm not judging you. So I guess once you start understanding that, it will go to the client and said, okay, here we go. I have a person that really loved me and compassionate, and it will take a while because and this client that we had, it did take a while, but after a while she did open up and she really admired the caregiver, and they became very good friends until the day that she passed on. So it's very true. We cannot just label them about hard head and they don't listen, because there's something happened in the past and that's why they are behaving like that. And I just want to share that with you guys.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. That's beautiful testimony.
I'd like to say something also. So I also agree that everybody's personality is different. And sometimes different caregivers have different personalities. The residents look at us differently. So it just depends on how you talk to them, how you interact with them and engage. So everybody's different. So that's why you can never go ahead and just, like when I do my assessments, I'll hear from the prior resident, the care home operator, oh yeah, this person is very difficult. But until I actually deal with them, I don't say anything to my girls because I don't want them to, have a predisposed image of the resident.
Thank you, Juanette, for sharing that. Dr. Pink, any strategies for us how we could better include and honor dignity, inclusion, diversity in our clients, especially the hardhead ones?
Right, though, and that's difficult to do, right? But they're hard-headed for a reason. Elsa, you're my hero. I love you. That was such a wonderful response you gave. And part of that comes from listening to their journey. If many times when they feel they're listened to and they're respected, that could easily change. I see some of those comments coming up. They may treat you differently. Sometimes they have been battered around in their life. And maybe it's just a sense of showing them that little bit of love.
Dr. Rita Bell, this is Layla. I want to add something too. I think it's really, really important to get to know the clients or our members that you admit into your home. And one of the things that we do as Medicaid health coordinators, part of the assessment, there is a form, we call it My One Page Profile. So that form is actually a thumbnail or a description of what the client was like, what do they want, how do they want to be treated, how, what can we do for them to remain healthy. So it's like a picture of their life. So we do the best that we can to capture as much information. For our caregivers, if you have that copy in your client's chart, go ahead and go back to that page and review that, because that tells you a lot about the client that you're caring for. Because you may have admitted a client that has dementia, but maybe that person was someone who was very important back then and who was a registered nurse or something. They were someone back in the day, and it's so important to have that baseline, that information about our clients, um, because that it helps us treat them with respect and dignity.
Thank you, Laila, for reminding us of that one-page patient preference. We often forget that we have this information. We have to remind ourselves to look at that synopsis and life story of that patient. We have some other beautiful comments in the chat from Emma. Says, respect patients' preferences, and the care plans are individualized. So we can give them that quality of life. So remember to go back to the care plan. We have another comment in the chat from Josephina, who says, all we do is to embrace our job and be patient in any way, because we can go in that situation sooner or later. One day we will be in their shoes as well. Thank you for these comments. Dr. Pink, I'm very curious. In your bio, you have done such amazing things, from your company to your book, LLC. Can you tell me something? I've never heard this before. Death doula. I would like to learn more about this. What is a death doula?
Right. Well, yeah. So death doula is, relatively a new term. So we've all heard of the beginning of life doula, where we help the baby be born, etc. So a death doula is that at the end of life. So we can be there with a family to help with advanced directives, help plan the celebration of life, the funeral, memorial service, and then we can be there during the transition. We can be there to help prepare the body for the mortuary pickup. We can be there to help with whatever ambiance they want when the patient is transitioning. And then my big area is grief. We are there for families. Now, I'm certified death doula, and that goes back from when in 91, when I was volunteering, I was a death doula, and I didn't even know I was a death doula. That's the wonderful thing. So from that, then, yeah, I wrote my book on healing our grief. I've just started my LLC of healing music, which will soon be, the site will be live, but it's scary because I'm venturing into business, which is not my area, but I love it. So there's just so much we can do for our patients and end of life care. It's a great world.
Well, thank you for being a death doula. We have a comment from Melita, who says that the easiest way to show respect and inclusion with your charge is always treating them as your family, not just a patient or client. That is very beautiful. Thank you, Melita. Anyone would like to share a challenge or a success story on how they brought about dignity and respect in a client, or a case they've handled in the past?
I wanted to share not a member, but a patient I came across working with in the past, and I was changing her diaper, and she tells me, "Don't remember me this way." And I just responded to her that you're very loved. And later I thought about it, and I was thinking to myself, what are other ways I could have responded? And that's where I was with that situation. Until this day, I still think about it, because that's just how I remembered her now from what she said that day.
Leilani, thank you for your courage and strength to share this with us. All of us in our healthcare field, we look back at the day and think, how could I have responded differently to that family? I could have said something better or something different. And you're bringing that vulnerability and sharing with all of us. And I thank you for doing that, because each of us can look back and say, what could I have said differently in that situation? Dr. Pink, any thoughts on what Leilani shared?
No, I think that's a beautiful expression. And it's important to, that's the way the patient was feeling. Don't remember me like this. But what she was really asking was, remember my life and the great things that I did. And that's why it's such a big responsibility of all of us to get to know those. And I loved how it was said earlier, all of our clients, patients, they are family, and they had a life. They lived, they may have married, they worked, they all have stories. And let's find out about their journey.
Oh,
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much for encouraging us to explore people's life stories. We have Grace, who has commented that we need to assess, because the first step is assessing. We listen, assess, we observe, look at their verbal, their body language, their facial expression, because many a time our patients cannot speak. So we have to look at the nonverbal cues. Plan from what you have observed and implement Thank you, Grace, for your comments.
And that's why during the initial assessment or face-to-face with the client or the family, I like to talk stories about if the family is there, I really love to talk stories with them because I need to find out who is this person too that we are going to provide the care. How is he? Where is he born? Where did he graduate? What are the things that he wants to do? What's his hobby? All of that, because that we will incorporate that when we're doing our service plan. And we don't want to see them now that they are like this. We want to know what they're like before. Wow, this is somebody. Oh, he used to love sports. So those sports. If he likes to do basketball, he likes to do this, we will incorporate that during the service plan, or we will tell the caregiver, okay, when they're doing something, show them, let them watch something about football. Don't let them watch love story or those Korean soap opera, because that will not do anything. Let them watch football because this person used to play football, and that is a one way of getting them be involved. And now they feel like they belong because now maybe you have time, you can be sitting with them and watching their favorite sports. So I really like to talk stories with the family and find out what's going on. And if we cannot get that story on the first and second, maybe, when you go back and visit them again, you can ask the caregiver, okay, what was the story that you get? And encourage them to involve them. Or maybe they love their grandchildren, but they never see their grandchildren before. And you do have a small kid. Bring them in the room and tell them, hey, Grandpa, how are you? I know a lot of the clients, their grandparents' instincts come out when you bring children in the room. But you also need to find out do they love kids? Do they love animals? Do they love this? Because I have a client at one time, he doesn't want to talk to anybody. But once you put the dog in his lap, oh my God, he start talking. How are you? Are you hungry? And I was just so amazed when I went to visit. He couldn't talk until my caregiver said, what's this? And then she put that dog in his lap and he started talking. How lovely is that? I was just so happy when I went to visit and that happened. And these are our true stories. So we really need to get to know our patients. So then that way we can include them. So then they will have that sense of belonging. They don't feel like they are just a client.
Thank you, Elsa, for bringing belonging, bringing sports, bringing the dogs, bringing the pets. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. As you remind us, this care plan needs to be individualized to what matters for the client. We are in our What Matters series of the 4 M's of healthy aging. So these 4 months, we are talking about what matters. And we have a comment here from Maria Fabro who says, yes, patient-centered care. And she wants to encourage us to remember to have compassion to ourselves also as caregivers. We need to think about self-care so we can continue the wonderful work that we do. Thank you, Maria, for your comment. We have Renata who is sharing with us a beautiful post. Renata says, there was a post I once read that went like this. Thank you to the nurse who pulled up my pants when I was in the midst of starting an emergency IV. You are my real hero. We are all a team and sometimes need our pants adjusted. Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Renata, for sharing that. We have a comment here from Joyce. Joyce is talking about during transition, all our patients will reach max limit, especially when clients have no family. And all the love and compassion comes in. Thanks to the support of hospice teams, when our clients cannot talk anymore and are just sad and eyes are communicating, all the respect we need to give them, ensuring proper dignity, not only when they can still interact, but until they give their last breath. Hospice teams, kudos to you. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That's so beautiful. We have hospice providers here, Dr. Pink and Clarence Liu. Would you like to share about what hospice does, especially at end of life, bringing dignity and respect?
Go ahead, Clarence.
I loved hearing the conversation and all of the things that you were speaking about earlier. One of the things that came to me as I listened to many of the speakers, and I wanted to ask Doctor, what, I would love to hear what you would say to me if I said, it's very hard for me to help people because I feel a lot for them. And a lot of times I start to feel my own grief. And it makes me cry or it upsets me, and then I get lost. Is there something you can tell me to
I might say to the...
It may touch something in me, the doula situation, but can you help me understand, like, what is grief? Why is it's really scary to me, And I was just wondering if you could say something to us or help us, Anyway, that just came up.
Dr. Pink, please, could you
Oh,
share?
okay. Wasn't sure if you were gonna jump in there now. Grief is terrifying, isn't it? And I love, during COVID, because I'm death doula, all of the folks that I work with are outside of Bristol Hospice. So that there's not conflict of interest, but literally during the years of COVID, every single one of my folks that I worked with were parents that had lost children to addiction. And for them, how do you say when we hear that phrase, oh, they're in a better place, or it's for the better? How do you say to a mother that has lost her child that they're in a better place? Well, damn it, I want my child here. I don't want them in a better place, right? Grief is terrifying. And the worst thing about grief is that 5 years later, it's going to hit us again, right? There's no journey that can say, first you go through this, then you go through this. And if somebody's dealing with this, again, we go back to that listening and that talking. What is it that terrifies you? That actually, and Clarence, that's a question that is asked of those of us that deal with grief and doula issues. That's asked a lot because people are scared of grieving, and I don't blame them at all. But that's the right start. They're asking the question, what can I do? How can I understand this?
Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor. We have Marian Kakatian said that it's okay to feel the way you feel. We're only human and we feel. Thank you for sharing that thought. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Clarence, I would have also said to you that, because you have walked in that shoes, you are even more powerful as a team member. because
Mm.
you can empathize with that family
Mhm.
much better than a doctor or somebody who has not walked in their shoes. So I
Mm.
think that team player would even earn greater trust
Mm.
and greater connection with that patient and family.
Mm. Mm.
And Elsa
Thank you.
Talavera said, listen, show empathy, hold their hands. You don't have to talk.
Mm. Oh, I like that.
Silence is powerful too. Yes, thank you.
Mm. Yeah, I think a lot of times that what gets into my way is I want to help the person. I want them not to feel what they're feeling, you know, and it's so hard to just sit with someone. And yet I have found that really a lot of times when I try to help them feel better, I I don't know if I'm doing anything, you know, anything that is helpful. What that does, I think, is I'm trying to make myself feel better. And if I could just sit with them so that they know that I am with them, just like what you said earlier, the person who just spoke before you. I think that that's hard to do, but I feel a lot of times that brings more peace to someone. That rather than me trying to help them feel better, to have them feel that I'm with them, you know, and that they don't need to be fixed.
Yeah.
And that if I could have the courage to sit with someone quietly and be there for them, just to really be attentive to them. I find a lot of times that they'll tell me afterwards that, you know, that felt better. Thank you. And, you know, I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just trying to be with them, you know, imagining if I were them at that time, what would be helpful to me, you know, because I know that whatever you say to me, it's not going to reach the part of my heart that is feeling so much sorrow and pain. And I think that it has taken me a long time to learn this. I don't know. Does that make sense, Rita?
Yes, very, very powerful words. That's part of our journey as health professionals. It takes years to get to where you are, Clarence. And thank you for easing the suffering at end of life.
I don't see.
Yeah, I think grief is such a personal experience. It's very subjective, and every person goes through the stages of grieving very differently.
Mm.
And I think if we, as caregivers, you know, are acknowledge that, accept that, and just give our client that space to go through their experience. I think in the long run, it'll help us as well as caregivers to avoid, you know, feeling responsible for them, for the experience that they need to go through.
It's beautifully said. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And thank you for attending. Maria is one of the nursing instructors at Kauai Community College, by the way.
Beautiful.
We do have a comment from Renata. Oh, Clarence wanted to tell you that you're a gift, and all your experiences and sacrifices and struggles are also a gift.
Mm,
And Grace said that grief is a vague feeling that it's hard to cope or control, but there's always a solution that can be accepted on different phases.
mm. Thank you.
Thank you. So I don't see any more comments, Dr. Ridabel. Shall we move on to the evaluation piece?
Sounds good.
Thank you. So please don't forget to complete your evaluation. And when you do that, you'll please answer 3 questions related to advance directive, healthcare power of attorney, and pulse. Okay, and please make sure that we have your correct information, your name and email addresses, and the correct spelling, of course, because evaluations are going to be emailed out using an automatic system. So please, again, double check your email addresses to make sure that we have it correctly. And we just want to thank you for all the good things that you're doing for all our clients in the community. Thank you for all your sacrifices, and thank you for your attendance today.
I want to take this opportunity to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, to wish you, your families, your clients. We are very grateful to have this ECHO community. We meet monthly, and it's thanks to each and every one of you that brings this community of learning. We are all together as care home operators, as foster home operators, improving the care of our kupuna. You are committed to education and improving care for our elderly on this island. I want to thank our sponsors, Aloha Care and United Healthcare. I would also like to thank our hub team who have given their time and are here every month. And last but not least, our speaker, Dr. Iping, who gave us a very great talk on dignity and respect. Yeah. And we will remember that throughout this month and this holiday season. We will be thankful and grateful for what we have, and we will remember to think about what matters to our client, to learn their life stories, to honor them, giving them dignity and respect. Thank you so much, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving.